Tonight on Cronkite News, elections in Arizona, the new money from bonds slated to help projects in the valley.
Plus, addressing the impact of immigration, the message an Arizona state senator had for members in Congress. We have the latest in Washington.
And Sun Devil football travels to Bruin territory Saturday for more Pac-12 play. What challenges await as ASU looks to redeem itself from last week's loss?
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Aaron Gonzalez.
And I'm Alex DaCosta. Thank you for joining us. During the 2023 election, Arizona voters approved millions of dollars in funding across the state. Just here in Phoenix, voters okayed $500 million in bonds.
This would fund everything from parks to education and infrastructure. But as Sydney Whitty tells us, it looks like there's voters in one Valley city didn't give the thumbs up to more spending.
According to Maricopa County elections, a majority of Valley cities voted yes on bonds. Phoenix had 4 bonds up for approval, and it looks like the bond to pay for fire, police, and infrastructure has the highest approval rate at 70.6% yes. Bond 2, that focuses on parks, libraries, preservation, also looks like it's passing at 64.1%. And Bond 3, that puts money towards education, economy, and beautification, has 61.92% yes. Most of the bonds floated by area school districts are also passing. But residents of the city of El Mirage in the West Valley are showing a big gap in early ballots counted, with nearly 80% of voters voting no for their bond that would have gone towards a new fire station. I spoke with El Mirage Council member Anita Norton, who says though the voting turnout was lower than hoped, she's happy to see voices being heard in the community.
Well, what we found out is a lot of people didn't really even pay attention to the signs. You know, they see them, but they don't know what it's about. And so a lot of the people did not even know that there was an election going on, nor did they know what the importance of it was.
Now, these are not the final results, as votes are still being counted and will be updated daily until all the ballots are processed. For updated results, you can always check the Secretary of State's website. At the Google touchscreen, Sydney Whitty, Cronkite News.
Thanks, Sydney. Meanwhile, voters in Flagstaff rejected plans for a new hospital. A rendering shows what the $800 million facility would have looked like. The latest poll results show 72% voted no to the project. Officially known as Proposition 480, supporters of the plan said a new hospital is needed to serve the Flagstaff area because the current one is overcrowded.
Another big issue on the ballot, abortion. In Ohio, voters there approved a constitutional amendment that ensures access to abortion in the state constitution. Ohio is now the 7th state where voters have decided to protect the right to abortion. California, Michigan, Kansas, Kentucky, Montana, and Vermont also have either passed abortion protections or defeated plans to restrict abortions. The amendment was called Issue 1. Critics of the amendment note that this could threaten parental rights. Ohio was the only state to consider abortion rights this election.
Meanwhile, abortion could be on the ballot in our state come next year. The group Arizona for Abortion Access is advocating for the constitutional amendment on the 2024 ballot. In order to be on the ballot, the group needs close to 380,000 signatures by next July. The proposed amendment would enshrine the ability to protect abortions in the state constitution for at least 23 weeks. Right now, abortions are legal in Arizona up to 15 weeks. There have been almost 2.5 million migrant encounters at the southern border, which is a record number. Today, Arizona State Senator David Gowan was in Washington with other local lawmakers, hoping to press the seriousness of the issue on our Congress. As our Alexandria Cullen reports from our Washington bureau.
The message from Gowan and from the others who came from around the country is that immigration is not just a border state issue, it's a national security issue.
That even in Bozeman, Montana, we have issues. Just recently this summer, we had a prostitution ring of 18 people where there was even child victims that were involved, fentanyl, cocaine. And 3 out of the 18 were illegal immigrants.
Gillette's comments were typical of those at the event hosted by the Federation for American Immigration Reform, an organization known for its anti-immigration stance. Their president, Dan Stein, blamed the Biden administration, saying the problems can be solved, but by going back to what he says works.
We want to go back to the tradition of secure borders. Asylum seekers have to wait their turn outside the country.
Terrell County, Texas Sheriff Thad Cleveland said it's not a Democratic or Republican issue, noting that the problem of illegal immigration has been going on for years. But he says it's one that must be addressed.
We're experiencing the same thing that all across the southwest border other communities are experiencing.
Many of the speakers said they have nothing against migrants, just illegal migration. But Ricky Garza, an attorney with the Southern Border Communities Coalition, called attacks on migrants just another attempt to dehumanize people seeking a better life.
There is a human right to migration. There is a human right to be treated with respect, and that is something, regardless of what the numbers of migration are on any given day, is something that needs to be respected.
Gowan said border states like Arizona and Texas know firsthand the impact of migrant crossings, which is why it's important to bring the issue to Congress.
The interior states, we need to get to those congressmen and tell them what's happening down there, what's happening with the people on the ground.
Gowan expected to meet with Arizona lawmakers, but the event included people from as far away as North Carolina and Maine, and they're expected to fan out over Capitol Hill. In Washington, Alexandria Cullen, Cronkite News.
October numbers are not out yet, but Customs and Border Protection said it encountered 2.47 million migrants in fiscal 2023, which ended in September. And Tucson was the busiest sector for the past 3 months, with more than 373,000 crossings, 3 in the air.
Turning now to the Israel and Hamas war, some Arizona lawmakers say they want a ceasefire in Gaza. This is a letter members of the Arizona State House and Democratic Caucus sent to President Biden. The letter lists all the events that have led to what some UN officials have called a humanitarian crisis. In part, the letter accuses the Israeli government of committing actions banned in the Geneva Conventions. 16 legislators have signed onto the letter.
The Supreme Court will weigh in on a federal regulation that bans people from having guns in certain circumstances. Yesterday, the Supreme Court heard the case. These are sketches of the oral arguments. The law makes it a crime for people to have guns if they are under a domestic violence restraining order. Last year, a New Orleans court struck down the law. President Biden's administration appealed, saying the right to bear arms from the Second Amendment is not unlimited. In the past, Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Brett Kavanaugh have signed off in the same ideology.
And back here in the Valley, Sky Harbor International Airport is making it easier to catch an electric ride-share vehicle. This week, airport officials unveiled what they're calling the Green Curb program. That means there are designated pickup areas for electric vehicles from ride-share companies like Uber and Waymo. These areas will be marked with green signage. They're also closer than other ride-share pickup spots around the airport.
Coming up next, using money for good. The new money Arizona is set to receive from a nationwide opioid settlement. The ways in which local organizations plan to use the money for good.
And that's the way it is. Monday, September.
Newscasting has changed a lot since the time of Walter Cronkite. That's why here at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, you can learn the studio production skills of today in real time. Whether you want to work audio, direct, technical direct, design graphics, or you can even run the floor. It's all part of the Television Production and Graphics Lab here at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. We're going on in 3, 2...
Did you know newsrooms today are looking for bilingual journalists? Cronkite Noticias prepares you to cover diverse communities. In Cronkite Noticias, you will obtain an unforgettable experience.
Nopales como este van a tumbar.
Cronkite Noticias.
And develop your skills with the latest technology.
Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications Phoenix Sports Bureau provides students with hands-on learning experiences and opportunities in sports journalism. From covering local high schools, colleges, and the pros, students get the opportunity to go live from our Facebook shows covering local, collegiate, and pro sports in the Valley. From digital reporting, broadcast, social media, and producing, there's opportunities for all. For more, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Welcome back. Arizona is set to receive $542 million in funding over the next 18 years.
The money is part of the national opioid settlement between states, tribal nations, and opioid distributors and manufacturers in the U.S. Cronkite News reporter Adriana Gonzalez-Chavez tells us how Maricopa County is hoping to help opioid victims with this new funding.
Thanks, Aaron and Alex. Opioids affect a lot of people. About 22 people for every 100,000 in Maricopa County die from an overdose. $2 million of the dollars are being distributed to 12 local organizations in Maricopa County.
Only limited funding that prevents us from being able to serve every woman who comes to us.
Erin Moad, the Deputy Director of Live and Learn, explains that more funding to fight opioid addiction will have a direct impact on Arizona families.
Our program model is very lean and intentional, so every dollar that we're given by individual donors, Arizona tax credit donors, goes directly to serving women. It doesn't go to overhead, doesn't go to salaries, it goes directly to the women in our program.
Live and Learn is a nonprofit that helps women who experience domestic violence by assisting them to find housing, work, and health care. Carmen Batista, the division administrator for Maricopa County, says funding was given to local organizations because of their strong connections to the community.
A lot of times making sure that they're hiring people from the community, maybe peers that have lived experience. And so that was a priority for us to fund organizations that already have those connections and can meet people where they are.
While Batista does not think this funding will completely get rid of substance use in Arizona, she says it will definitely help.
We're working really hard to allow different iterations of services and blended services so that people can be supported in their recovery, which could be really fast for some folks, but some folks identify as being in recovery for the rest of their life.
According to Moad, of the 200 women that Live and Learn serves, about 70 of them tend to have some history with substance use. And they applied for the funding to be able to serve the other close to 100 women who apply for the program, but cannot be helped due to lack of resources.
So the more funding we bring in, the more women here in Maricopa County we can serve, and we can help them really transform their lives.
Other local organizations that received funding include Community Bridges, Neighborhood Ministries, Not My Kid, and Taros Health. In the newsroom, Adriana Gonzalez-Chavez, Cronkite News.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved the type 2 diabetes drug for weight loss. The drug is called Zepbound. You may have seen the drug in the past under a different name, Mounjaro. The drug has been used in the past to aid those trying to lose weight. Clinical trials found Zepbound can lead to more than 20% weight loss when used for more than 72 weeks. The drug is produced by Eli Lilly. The FDA says the drug can be used for those who have at least one weight-related health condition.
Earlier this week, the co-working company WeWork filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. At one point, the company's stock price value was projected to be $47 billion in 2019. But then the pandemic hit, and the co-working space struggled to bring people in. The group had close to 800 spaces in nearly 40 countries. That included 3 in the Phoenix area, one called the Watermark, another Block 23, and one located on Camelback Road. Even with the bankruptcy, there are still options to make a booking via a WeWork representative. Now we turn to our Jordy Fee Platt joins us from the Cronkite Weather Center with your weekly forecast.
Thanks, Alex. Let's take a look at the evening planner for tonight. Temperatures will dip below 70 degrees at 9 p.m. It's going to be a beautiful fall evening, as we'll be seeing going forward. Certainly, it's been very pleasant of late, especially at night. You'll see more people outside going forward. The average November temperatures, not what we're accustomed to seeing so far in November this year. 76 is the average, but we've seen temperatures in the 80s, some in the high 80s, even approaching 90 this past weekend, and we're not getting any rain. A half an inch is expected in November. Haven't seen any of that, so hoping that's coming soon. Taking a look at the low temperatures tomorrow, look how cold it's going to be up in northern Arizona. 14 degrees is the low in the Grand Canyon, 17 degrees in Flagstaff. It remains really pleasant in Phoenix. This is the time when the northern Arizonans want to come down to the valley and enjoy this beautiful warm weather. 79 degrees is the high tomorrow, and we should have temperatures like that going forward. It should be very, very pleasant, although still pretty warm, above average heading into the weekend. 81 degrees on Saturday, and then Sunday and Monday, 86 degrees, very warm. Hoping that rain will come in later next week on Wednesday and Thursday. That would certainly cool temperatures down and bring much needed rain to the valley. From the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Jordy Fee Platt.
Thank you, Jordy. Meanwhile, to the north, firefighters are getting a handle on the Maid fire burning to the south of Flagstaff. The Coconino National Forest said today the fire is now 55% contained. But the fire has grown to nearly 1,000 acres. A large team made up of 88 people is working to knock it out. The immediate area around the fire remains closed. The fire was first spotted on Saturday. Officials say it is human-caused. Meantime, here in the Valley, it's high school football playoff season.
Our Ryan Bedell has got it all covered and joins us now. Ryan, what's in our Cronkite Sports Report today?
Hey, Alex and Aaron. Coming up next in sports, the battle for Arizona Avenue resulted in a shocking ending. Find out who came out on top in this classic East Valley high school rivalry when we return.
We tell ourselves stories as a nation.
These stories need to be highlighted, they need to be explored. We're the dreamers.
How serious is America's commitment to looking at its history? How can we learn from the past?
Douglas said, "You're going to look me in the eye and see my humanity."
It's illuminating. I'm seeing the expansiveness of my history.
It's pretty great.
There's so much richness to Black life and Black culture.
I think the story of Muslims in America is the story of America.
Tonight, they are free.
I cannot imagine how excited he must have been.
It's a wonderful feeling. This is why we do this.
It makes me even more committed to struggling for a better world.
Here at the TV Production and Graphics Lab, we are behind the scenes making the news happen. Gain experience in the control room directing, teledirecting, and rolling the audio of every Cronkite News show. Run the floor and work in a professional environment, honing your skills for the future. Create graphics that will be seen by the local community on Arizona PBS. Be a part of the bloodline that makes the Cronkite News shows possible.
ASU's one and only student-run radio station, Blaze Radio, provides students with opportunities to cover a variety of topics. From music,
this is Sun City Garage,
to sports coverage,
against the Brewers in his last outing, he went
to news.
The bill also gives parents the ability to sue.
And entertainment updates. Blaze Radio offers a fun environment to gain valuable broadcast experience. To find out more, visit blazeradioonline.com.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Ryan Bennell. 11 months after tearing his ACL, Kyler Murray was officially activated to the Cardinals' 53-man roster today. Murray is on track to start Sunday against the visiting Falcons and got some first-team reps in practice today. It's definitely an understatement to say that the team is excited for Murray's return, and that excitement started with watching him grow through this tough year.
Yeah, I feel like, with him being back, it's a chance to see, what we got, what we could do, and as an offense, keep growing, keep learning each other for sure. I don't think, I don't really miss a day. Like, I asked him, a few weeks ago, I'm like, do you get any off days? Because every time I see him, he's been working ever since the offseason, so he's been good.
ASU football travels out west to take on UCLA in Los Angeles this weekend. With just 2 wins on the season, the Sun Devils are looking to get on the right side of the scoreboard any way they can, and they might just have a few tricks up their sleeve. Kenny Dillingham knows that protection is the name of the game against an elite UCLA defensive line, so at practice this week, the Sun Devil head coach is looking into some new ways to move the ball.
Hey, they're difficult to block. That's why they're top 10 in the country in rush defense, top 10 in the country in sacks. So, because they're difficult to block. So, we can say, let's line up and run the zone. Okay, cool. You can see how that works for us, right? But we're going to have to be creative with, how we throw it, how we run it, and the things we do in order to, play to our strengths.
After last season's strong start, Bobby Hurley isn't lowering his expectations for his squad. As a man who experienced much success in his college days at Duke, Hurley is pushing his team to set high standards for themselves.
This is the last season of the Pac-12, and we talked about that and just,
what are we going to do this year, with this being the last year, how are we going to attack this season and make the most out of it. It's our last chance to win anything, in the Pac-12 for Arizona State basketball. I don't see, any banners, in our arena. So hopefully I think that's how the guys have been thinking.
We'll see what Hurley and his new squad can do at their season opener tonight in Chicago for the Barstool Sports Invitational. This will be the first time we see many new faces and some familiar ones, with 5 returnees, including guard Frankie Collins. The roster now includes 11 newcomers, 7 being transfers, and joining Hurley on the bench will be 4 new coaches. Tip-off tonight is set for 7:30 against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. The high school state football playoffs for the big schools kick off tomorrow, including the Open Division Championships. 2 powerhouse teams in Hamilton and Chandler will be making a run at the title. The 2 rivals played each other last weekend to determine their seeding. Cronkite News reporter Kenji Ito has more on this historic rivalry.
Hamilton arrived just 10 minutes before kickoff to face Chandler in the battle for Arizona Avenue. The Huskies practiced on their own field to avoid any chippiness ahead of this rivalry game that's been going on for 24 years. But with open division seeding on the line, the Wolves made the bigger statement, winning in a lopsided affair 49-13.
That was the biggest thing that we wanted to do this game. We wanted to get that trophy back to where it belongs. It feels real good.
Running back Khalil Valentine brought his A game as he scored 3 touchdowns. It was a matchup that he marked on his calendar because of the rivalry between the 2 schools.
It definitely was right in my mind because I haven't played against these guys since my freshman year. Didn't play my sophomore year. I was hurt my junior year, so I definitely wanted to come out and be able to play against these guys, and I think I showed what I can do.
Having lost to Hamilton the last 2 years, this victory not only stopped the Husky streak, but it was a defining moment for Chandler football this season.
We played Highland, we play Basha, we play Hamilton. We play a great schedule that helps us prepare for nights like this. That's why I'm so proud of my kids.
Now that they secured the number 4 seed, the Wolves are ready for the Open Division playoffs.
Honestly, I got no message for them. The scoreboard speaks enough. We're just going to come out, whoever's next, just worry about them and not really look forward to those 2-3 other games ahead of us. We're just worrying about who we got next week and just go from there.
Chandler will face 5th-seeded Highland in the opening round of the playoffs. In Chandler, Kenji Ito, Cronkite News.
It's USA versus Canada in a huge rivalry game at Mullet Arena. The U.S. women's national team hosts their foes from north of the border in the first of this 7-game series. The rivalry series was introduced by USA Hockey and Hockey Canada 5 years ago and has turned into a must-see competition. The final game of this series last year was played before a record-breaking crowd of nearly 15,000 in Seattle. The teams will play 2 games here in the U.S. in November before heading north for Canada for 4 games in December and February. The final game will be played February 11th in Minnesota. Tune back in tomorrow for more exclusive coverage on this iconic matchup on ice. That wraps up your Cronkite Sports Report. As always, I'm Ryan Bonnell. Aaron and Alex, back to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Coming up next, the departure of pandas.
The reason these pandas are leaving the Smithsonian Zoo and they're headed back to China when we return.
We tell ourselves stories as a nation.
These stories need to be highlighted. They need to be explored.
We're the dreamers.
How serious is America's commitment to looking at its history? How can we learn from the past?
Douglas said, "You're going to look me in the eye and see my humanity."
It's illuminating. I'm seeing the expansiveness of my history.
It's pretty great.
There's so much richness to Black life and Black culture.
I think the story of Muslims in America is the story of America.
Tonight, they are free.
I cannot imagine how excited he must have been.
It's a wonderful feeling. This is why we do this.
It makes me even more committed to struggling for a better world.
Here at the TV Production and Graphics Lab, we are behind the scenes making the news happen. Gain experience in the control room directing, teledirecting, and rolling the audio of every Cronkite News show. Run the floor and work in a professional environment, honing your skills for the future. Create graphics that will be seen by the local community on Arizona PBS. Be a part of the bloodline that makes the Cronkite News shows possible.
ASU's one and only student-run radio station, Blaze Radio, provides students with opportunities to cover a variety of topics. From music,
this is Sun City Garage,
to sports coverage,
against the Brewers in his last outing, he went
to news.
The bill also gives parents the ability to sue.
And entertainment updates. Blaze Radio offers a fun environment to gain valuable broadcast experience. To find out more, visit blazeradioonline.com.
Welcome back. Today is a somber day at the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington, D.C.
The zoo will be saying goodbye to their pandas on loan from China, all 3 of them. This is because the Panda Exchange program between the United States and China is taking a hiatus. You see the pandas being packed here. They will then be flown on a plane being called the Panda Express. This program between the U.S. and China has lasted more than 50 years. Officials have jokingly referred to the partnership as panda diplomacy. Many are speculating that pandas are being pulled to the tensions between the U.S. and China. Now Atlanta will be the only zoo in the U.S. with pandas from China, and the contract for that partnership is going to expire next year.
And that's it for Cronkite News. Thank you for joining us.
And to see Arizona stories anytime, log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.